Pastor Steve, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and of course, thank all of you also. The title is Ever Joyful. You might wonder, looking at it without punctuation, is it ever joyful? Or ever joyful? Is there a question mark or an exclamation point there? Pardon my lack of punctuation, should have been ever joyful, as in always joyful. Have you stopped ever and thought and really gave consideration to what makes you happy, what makes you joyful? I would encourage you sometime in the near future to do that. Sit back in just a nice quiet place and think about the things that truly make you joyful. For me, that's life's simple pleasures are the best, and you've heard that before. Things like a smile. I come in, Donna's got a smile on her face. How was your day? Chipper voice. Doesn't matter what kind of day I've had. It's been wonderful. The grandkids. Of course, I've got 3 grand boys there at the house. The youngest one, Nick, is, about 2 years old now? About 2 years old now. And of course, he comes running up, arms wide open, Granddaddy! Wraps his arms around my legs. You know what? I could have had the worst day of my entire life. Forget all about it. So those are kind of simple things that make my life joyful. There are other things that you may consider that make your life joyful. I would say be careful in what you consider to be joyful. Think about, you may want a better job. Irma Bombeck wrote a book, and it was entitled "The Grass is Always Greener Over the Septic Tank." Pretty true words. Pretty true words. Years ago, I was more of a manual labor type person, and I thought, you know what, man, if I was in management, that'd be great. Well, you know what? The grass is always greener over the septic tank. Careful what you wish for, you may get it. You may want to date the person that you desire to date. Have the car that you want. Now, you've heard so much about the lottery. There's big money, and I thought about, I'd love to have, if I won a lottery, I'd like a really fast car. So I looked up a car. It's a Hennessy Venom GT. Little sports car. I can't say a little sports car. Pretty powerful sports car. Give you some stats on it. First gear. Now, I saw a video on this, and it's incredible. First gear, the thing runs 69 miles an hour. 6-speed transmission. There's no place in this country that I know of that you can do anything more than first gear. Go on. Second gear, 105. Third gear, 145. Fourth gear, 191. Fifth gear, 233. And final drive, sixth gear, 278 miles an hour. I have no idea why I would need a car that fast. Just incredible. Sometimes we may think that more money would make us happy. You ever had that thought, boy, if I had the lottery, just like my car, if I had won that lottery, man, look at what I could do. The lottery, from what they're saying now, they project it to be $1.3 billion. Billion, that's one with what? 9 zeros behind it? $1.3 billion. If you took the cash prize, it would be somewhere around $500 million, $150,000. It's the only place I know of that $150,000 sounds like change. Just crazy. But would that really make you happy? Think about it. Would it truly make you happy? With all the money, does it not bring a lot of other problems too? $1.3 billion. I bet you'd have 1.3 billion brand new best friends. You'd have probably 1.3 billion guys with the best idea. If you'll invest in this thing, we'll make money hand over fist. It'll bring some problems. How about, now one thing I thought about was travel, with winning all that money. But think about it. We took a cruise back in about 2010. I think about 2010. Mom took Donna and I and Bill and his wife. We all went down into the Caribbean. Now, if you travel, of course, you're so involved in seeing what you want to see, doing what you want to do. Where does God fit into all of this? I mean, when you normally have a daily devotion, or you listen to, say, a given preacher, or you take, maybe you're reading the Bible each day of the year. Where does that fit into vacation plans? When you're on vacation, I know I fall into it. I get stuck where maybe I don't stay on track as well as I should. If you had $1.3 billion, how on track would we be? How busy would you be in managing this huge asset? Thinking about happy, there's a song that Pharrell Williams does. And it's called Happy. If you've seen Despicable Me 3, you've heard it. It was on what was a commercial? Publishers Clearinghouse. Now, I played it for Dr. Rob this morning. He's heard it one time, and he's agreed to play a few stanzas of it. But if you're not familiar with it, Dr. Rob, if you would, please.
Yeah, the chorus goes something like this from what I heard on his phone one time. because I'm
And on, right. Well, the song, and like I said, I listened to that, and just, it cheers me up. It's an upbeat song, and yeah, it's really not a Christian song, but it truly does. It just gets me going. Talks about, it might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. We can take a break because I'm happy. Clap along, you feel like a room without a roof because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you, because I'm happy. Here comes bad news, talking this and that. Give me all you got. Don't hold back. I should probably warn you that I'll be just fine. No offense to you, but don't waste your time. Here's why, because I'm happy. Love being happy. I think everybody does. You walk by somebody and you give them a smile, or they give you a smile, and it makes your day. The reason I picked out the verse in Proverbs was I thought these were some of the more Christian things that made us happy. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Of course, the greatest commandment, Matthew 22:37. Trust the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, basically with all that you are. And if we trust God, wouldn't we be much happier? We looked for His guidance and seeked His word in all that we did. It seems like we'd be much happier. We'd make a lot fewer mistakes, I think, or I hope. It says, don't rely on your own understanding, but think about Him in all your ways. And so we do. We need to go to Him daily and rely on what He tells us. We've got an instruction book. It's kind of like that. Don't consider yourself to be wise. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. We're taught from little kids that we should always be self-sufficient. Learn to tie your own shoes. Probably Albert Einstein at 85 was saying, what, you still don't know how to tie your shoes? And here this was a brilliant individual, but couldn't tie his shoes. But we're taught to be self-reliant, self-sufficient. That's not what the book says. It says trust in God. Honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first produce of your harvest. Let me tell you a story about a fellow I used to work with. His name was Von L. And we'd have conversations off and on, and he told me about one particular thing that happened to him. Somebody that, and I don't remember now, it was somebody who knew or didn't know, but it's really inconsequential either way. He needed to borrow his car. So Von L says, sure, not my car anyway, it's God's. I've thought about that for years. He told me that back years ago, and I thought, wow, that's the way I need to be. It's not mine, it's God's. Don't despise the Lord's instruction, my son, and do not loathe his discipline. Kind of leads into James. James, a servant or a slave of God and the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes of the dispersion. If you look, this is the only place in the Bible that it says a slave of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ. It has, from what I read, it has to do with his title or his place in the church. He was very high up in the church. And he writes it to the 12 tribes of the dispersion. Now, the 12 tribes of dispersion were, of course, the Jewish Christians who, and this is back in the days of Saul, free road to Emmaus Paul. And, of course, Saul was, do you see what these people are doing? You know, he was a good Jew. Look at what these guys are doing. They're way off track. So, you know, don't think of Saul or Paul, free road to Emmaus, as this terrible guy, because being raised Jewish, he knew that this was the way things were supposed to be. You look at the Torah, you look at the Old Testament, this is the way things are. And these guys, man, they're so off track, we've got to straighten them out. The 12 tribes of the dispersion were cast out of their homes. They were carrying their possessions on their backs, being hunted down by Saul and his buddies. And James writes to him, and what's he saying? Count it all as joy. I'm sure some of them probably thought, what? Don't you see where we're at? Don't you see what's going on here? We're being hunted, we're being persecuted, stoned, imprisoned. Count it all as joy. If you read the rest of this, though, it says, consider it a great joy, my brothers, whenever you experience various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. That testing, if you realize in this context, it's not a test like you would integrate testing or your driver's license test or whatever else. Testing is a process where you would take rare metals such as silver. And silver, when you heat it up, of course the impurities rise to the top. You take the impurities off and you repeat the process. You heat it back up, take the impurities off the top until finally you're able to look down into this vat of silver and you can see your reflection. It's a beautiful analogy of where God tests us, takes our impurities away, works us through trials and tribulations to make us stronger, more faithful. And sooner or later looks down, sees his reflection in us, makes us more fit for heaven. And if you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously and without criticizing. Let him ask in faith without doubting. He says, come to him as little children, right? If you tell a child that this is the way things are, then they surely believe that this is the way it really is. If you told a kid, you know what, tomorrow it's going to rain cats and dogs. The young child's going to say, oh, where's the cats and dogs? I want a poodle. Last part of this, blessed, let's see, a man who endures trials is blessed because when he passes the test, he will receive the crown of life that is promised to those who love him. Give you an illustration on faith. One of the guys that I follow on YouTube and different places, in fact, in our Right Now media, you find him, Francis Chan, was doing an illustration. I just wanted to tell you about this thing. It's a story about a BB gun. So here he is, he's standing on the stage and he's talking about faith. He's got a balloon and he's got a BB gun. And he asks the congregation, says, who thinks I can hit this balloon with this BB gun? And of course, quite a few raise their hands. It's, keep your hands up. And it says, okay, now, who's willing to hold this balloon for me while I shoot it? Of course, a lot of hands went down, right? Last thing he asked, who's willing to hold this thing in your teeth and let me shoot it? A couple of people actually were willing to do this. So he gets the guy up and has him sign a waiver, stands there, aims the gun, And he couldn't do it. He said he'd done it several times before, but that's true faith. It's easy to say, yep, I've got faith. Yep, I believe in Jesus. I know he died for me. But part of the trials and tribulations is where we grow that faith. That we know that, you know what, he really did. He died for me. He died for you. He did these things because he loves us. Finish up with one thing real quick. It's a song I heard about prayer. It's entitled Prayer. Kendall Payne did this, and she had come to sing it at a church. And after she's introduced, she says, I feel like I should preface this with just a little explanation. People had been saying that, the song could be kind of negative. And she says, well, no, it really isn't. There was this fellow, American guy, who had felt the call of God on his life. He knew God was going to do something extraordinary with his life. He only had one problem. He had no idea what it was. And so he he was looking for Mother Teresa. And he got to her and says, listen, Mother Teresa, will you pray for me? And she says, well, of course I'll pray for you. What can I pray for you for? And he tells her what's going on, that he feels the call of God on his life, and that he wants clarity. He wants to know in no uncertain terms exactly what God has planned for him. Mother Teresa says, no, sir, I will not pray for that for you. And of course he's embarrassed and hurt, and he blurts out, but why? Why? All I want is what you've always had. And she says, no, sir, I've never had clarity. What I've had is trust, faith. And that I will pray for you for. The song she sings is kind of different, so let me run through some of these things for you and see if you don't see that possibly some of this stuff is stuff that Jesus tells us. It says, may your heart break enough that compassion enters in. May your strength be all spent upon the weak. May all the castles and crowns that you build and place upon your head, may they all come crashing down around your feet. May you find every step to be harder than the rest, or harder than the last, so your character grows greater every stride. May your company be of humble insignificance. May your weakness be your only source of pride. May you do unto others, or what you do unto others, may it all be done to you. May you meet the one who made us and see him smile when life is through. May your blessings be many, but not what you hope they'd be. When you look upon the broken, may mercy show you what you could not see. May you never be sure of any plans that you desire, but you learn to trust the plan that he has for you. May your passions be tried and tested in the holy fire, and may you fight with all your life for what is true. Faith. It's a journey, not a destination, right? I've been listening to a lot of stuff from Reformed Theological Seminary, and one of the guys there is talking about, I forget which class it was, but anyway, was talking about that he thought he had true faith, that he had arrived. He really felt like he had strong faith, and he went through a life-changing event. He went through some type of cancer. He says, I realized then that my faith continues to grow day by day through all these trials and tribulations. And I had thought this week, in doing this, there have been so many different trials and tribulations that I've heard about, much more than what I normally do. And I thought, wow, it's incredible. But he really does work through us through these trials and tribulations. He really does grow our strength, our faith. He does prepare us to live in heaven. Thank you.